On Instagrams. Ugh. Yeah, you're fine. I'm gonna actually go talk about some of the stuff we talked about in part one. It's gonna help in part two. So, and part one is also on YouTube, so you can just watch it. It's on DCM's YouTube page. Hello. How are you? You made it. 10 out of 10. Good to see you as well. What's up? Well, I'm glad y'all showed up because I got like some crowd questions to ask y'all. Putting y'all on the spot. Like, what's going down? It's like, no. Just a question. So, you guys are going to be very helpful in today's trying some new stuff. Yeah, so if you missed part one, it's chill. We're going to talk about the short version. And this part two is basically a deep dive. So, they kind of go hand in hand because we're talking about like video production and audio production. It's like production part one was just like the fundamentals of the video side. And how audio works together. So these will go hand in hand. You actually probably would understand part one better after today. You did know the side to watch Forgot the Instagrams. It's all good. It's fine when we go live on the Instagrams. I think Instagram is like you go live for a short amount of time. Well, I mean, I guess an hour long live is not that. Thanks, sir. You see my screen, Drew? Tight.
How about you?
Right. In 5,
Okay.
4.
Are you trying to start a podcast or something?
Yeah.
Yes.
You?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Cool. All right. So, welcome everybody online, in person, to Production Skills Part 2. Today we're going to be talking about video production fundamentals and audio recording and podcasting. So, of course, welcome back. We really talked about the basics in part one. So today we're just going to do a deeper dive into the fundamentals and the technical aspects of both video and audio to kind of elevate that level of production standard. So whether you're making training videos, promotional content, or launching a podcast, mastering all of these fundamentals is going to improve the production quality all across the board. So it's going to keep your audience engaged, and it's just going to make everything look better. So hopefully I'm some help to you. Okay, so first let's reflect on where we're at take a second to look over these and tell me what skill, for those online and for those that have joined me in person, what is a skill you want to improve the most or add into your workflow on a regular basis. So before I ask everybody else, I'm going to tell you what mine are. Mine is actually storytelling, audio quality in the edit. So I know about how to capture things while I'm shooting. I know how to capture good audio and I know how to edit, but making the story and the audio much better in the edit is going to be in a streamlined way is what I've been working on now, especially working for PBS. So yeah. So for those of you online, those of you in person, what is a skill that you guys think you want to improve on the most?
Storytelling for me.
Storytelling?
So for me, I feel very comfortable with storytelling. And I think my audio quality is okay, but the camera skills, knowing where to put the camera to get the content, the lighting for sure, especially with limited equipment, and the editing, absolutely. Need
Okay.
some work there.
All right. Lena, do we have any questions online?
We do not.
Cool. Well, so we're going to be talking about all these today. So hopefully I'm able to help you guys figure out how to improve on those skill sets because they're going to be very helpful. So let's keep it going. So there's three, in part one, we talked about this a little bit. There's three pillars to exceptional video production. The first pillar is storytelling. The second is sound quality. And the third is image quality. I chose to build this like a triangle because image quality is not the most important. It's the most important thing is going to be the storytelling. And then right after that is sound quality. Because if a story is really good, then they're going to want to listen to the story. But if the sound isn't good, even if the story is fantastic, I can't hear it or it's hard to listen to. So it's just bad. But if you have really good storytelling and good sound quality, the image isn't going to matter that much. But if it's beautifully shot, it's going to make that experience even better. So those kind of things. So these three that you see on the screen are just descriptions. It's like image quality is the visual clarity. It establishes credibility and professionalism. So viewers make snap judgments about content value based on how it looks. I mean, we're humans. If things look beautiful, if they look expensive, if they look like you put a lot of effort into it, they're going to connect with that. But like even with basic equipment and really good technique, you can make very professional results. Like you don't need the Arri Alexa, which is $100,000 camera to shoot it. You just need really good technique, precision, and planning to make a good image. Sound quality. Audiences, they will tolerate mediocre visuals, but will abandon your content altogether if the audio sucks. So clear sound, it's not negotiable. Like for whatever you're doing, people need to be able to hear it, especially if you want them to watch it. And studies show audio quality impacts perceived information retention and trustworthiness. I mean, it's kind of a given. Like if I can't hear it properly, if it doesn't sound really good coming into my ears, then I'm like, I don't really trust what you're saying, especially if you're trying to teach me something. Like if I was teaching you about camera stuff and you could barely hear me on the video, you'd be like, obviously this guy doesn't know what he's doing, even if I've been doing it for 10 years. It's like, it just kind of, it adds into the perception. And then storytelling, it's the technical excellence. It means like technical excellence means really nothing without a good story. Cause like you could, have, like I say it all the time, like there's $10 million budget movies that have a horrible story. So it's like, I don't care if you have a big budget, the story sucked. So even if you have all these special effects and stuff, it doesn't matter. Strong storytelling is always going to make the entire project much better. No matter really what it is. If you can tell a really good story, even if it's a product, if it's a video, it'll be much better than just a big budget thrown in front of things. A really good example that I think of a lot is like if you think about the Us movie or the Get Out movie, those movies did not have a big budget. Those movies had like $1 million budget, but like, and I will say like I'm not saying this movie's bad, so don't come for me online, please. But like an Avengers movie that has a $10 to $20 million budget and all these special effects, but someone might be unsatisfied with the story. But for me, it's like Get Out was not a expensive movie to create, but the story was amazing. Like I was captured by the story from the very beginning. So yeah, good storytelling beats everything else. So cameras and lenses, we got to choose the right tools to tell our stories. So in this picture, you will see a bunch of different settings. In part 1, we went over these, but first pro tip is you're going to be shooting in manual. So that's that's selection number 1. Shoot your stuff in manual. You want full control over the image. I won't go into all these specifically, but I will talk about them a little bit. But we'll jump into camera types. So we have DSLR and mirrorless. So DSLR and mirrorless cameras are interchangeable lenses with larger sensors for better low light performance and depth of field control. So these are best for high quality production and they have greater creative control. So popular models, I mean, we know I'm a Sony kid, so I like the Sony A7 series, but I also like the Sony F series, so like the FX3, the FX30. Those are really favorites of mine. And then Canon, I'm not a fan of Canon, but Canon is a good camera. They've been in the game forever. Everybody knows how good Canon is. But their mirrorless models are called the EOS models. Their newest one is the EOS R, and there's another model for it, but it's a crop sensor. We won't get into the details of that, but it's also a really good camera. I've used it before. Amazing camera.
And these are cameras for filming?
Yes. These are DSLRs, and mirrorless cameras can be used for both photo and video.
Oh, filming and photo.
Yeah, so these ones aren't solely for video, but they give you the best of both worlds. Really good video and really good photos. Another good model is the Panasonic GH5. I'm not a fan of this camera, but a lot of people are a fan of that camera. So yeah. The next type of camera is camcorders. So these are cameras that are solely built for video. So they record significantly longer. They usually have a built-in lens that zooms significantly further than a typical lens, because on a DSLR you have to change it to a lens that fits that length. So like if I need to see between 70 to 200, I need to have a 70 to 200 lens, but 24 to 70, 16 to 35, so on and so forth. Camcorders, they don't require that. Some do. Some have interchangeable lenses, but camcorders most of the time are going to have a lens that just has good zoom quality. And they also have better audio inputs. So like these cameras will usually have an actual XLR input on there, which is very ideal for like capturing events, capturing interviews, and anything that's really longer, like podcasts and things like that, because you can plug your audio directly into the camera. So when you finish recording, you're going to have both the audio and the video in one, and you don't have to have a separate track. I mean, pro tip, always still record separately, because things can happen. Files disappear, things happen, they get corrupted. So always have a backup. But some popular models of camcorders are going to be the Sony HXR or the NX80, and then the Canon XA40.
Can you say those one more time?
The Sony HXR-NX80 and the Canon XA40. And also these slides will be available. I'll make sure that you guys have them. So if anybody wants them, you can have them. So you have all the information in there too. Last camera type is smartphones. Now, a lot of people sleep on the power of a smartphone, even though we pay so much for them. Like an iPhone, it's gonna cost you between $1,200 to $1,500. That's almost the price of a camera. And a lot of smartphones record in 4K now too, 24 all the way up to 120 frames per second. So that's not anything to sleep on. They have in-camera stabilization and they have editing apps that are already built into the phone. So it's perfect for like that social media. It's perfect for quick content and it's mobile. So it's not something to sleep on, but a good little pro tip for that is use the Filmic Pro app so you have manual control over your camera. There are other apps. I just know about the Filmic one, but there's other apps that you can use to have manual control. And so we have a quick little recap of part one. We're going to jump into our key camera settings. So each of these ones are numbered, so I'll just be saying like 1, 2, 3, or 4. So 1, it's manual. This is what you want to shoot with, whether you're taking photos or video, it doesn't matter. You want to have your camera in manual because you want control of all the settings. Then you have your big 3 settings. So number 2 is your shutter speed. So for video, depending on your frame rate, you want your shutter speed to be double your frame rate. So if I'm shooting at 24 frames, I want my shutter speed to be 1 over 50.
What does that mean? Like, can you break that down more? Like when you're saying 24 frames?
Yes. So 24 frames is actually our frame rate. So in each camera, you have a setting of what frame rate to record at. And then you also have your shutter speed. So frame rate is just what frames you're capturing during video. So like 24 frames per second, that's going to be your cinematic look. You have a lot of motion blur. So when you move your hand, you notice like you have a little bit of blur in your hand. But the higher your frame rate, the smoother the motion. So 24 frames is always going to be the cinematic look. You want it to look super cinematic. 30 frames is like the standard look. It's kind of the best of both worlds. You still get a little motion blur, but you really get smooth motion too. And you can also slow that footage down. And then 60 frames per second, those are going to be the completely smooth motion. That's where you can start making slow motion stuff come from. So 24 frames is whatever you shoot, you're not going to be able to slow that down in editing at all because it's going to start to look really choppy. 30 frames, you can slow it down a little bit before it starts to look choppy. And then 60 frames and higher, those are going to be where all the slow motion shots and movies and videos you guys see that look really smooth, they're shot at 60 frames or higher. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So when it comes to frame rates, shutter speed, your shutter speed needs to be double your frame rate. It's always going to be a fraction, so it'll be 1 over a number, but you want that bottom number to be double what your frame rate is. 24 is a little weird. When you do that shutter speed, it's usually going to be 1 over 50. Because, 24 times 2 is 48, but it's never going to be 1 over 48. It's just going to be 1 over 50. Don't be alarmed. You have it set right. 30 frames, of course, 1 over 60. And then 60 frames, you're going to have it 1 over. That's another one that's weird because some cameras will have 1 over 120. Some only go up to 125. So if it's at 125, it's fine. It's just some cameras have 120, some have 125. It's not a big deal. It's not a big difference. Question?
So if you increase the frame rate, does it increase the file size then?
No, not always. It depends on, like, the question was if you increase the frame rate, do you increase the file size? Sometimes, yes, depending on the camera. So, like, a good example would be I use the Blackmagic Urza Pro. If I change my frame rate to 60 frames, then yes, my files will get bigger because I'm shooting at 4K. But then you get into like 12:1 and constant bit rate and all those different things. That's just overly complicated. But most of the time, it's not going to be like the biggest thing that's going to make the file size bigger is the image quality you're recording at. So if you are you shooting in 1080p or you shooting in 4K, those are the two biggest factors that'll affect it. Frame rate will affect it a little bit, but not as much as image quality. So yeah.
When you're talking about making the file bigger, you're saying, like, when you guys are saying that, you're saying if you shoot at a different, like, higher than 4K, it makes the file bigger for, like, transferring and moving the file? Not,
Yes.
like, the length of the file, you're talking about, like, how much data it uses?
Yeah. So how many gigs it uses? It's like how many gigabytes would it use? So like if I shoot an 8K, if I shoot 10-second clips, one at 8K, one at 4, and one at 1080p. The one at 1080p is going to be the smallest. It'll probably be 1 gigabyte. The one at 4K is probably going to be 2 or 3, and the one at 8 is going to be like 6 to 8 gigs per clip. And then, of course, if it gets longer, then you end up with like 27 gigs of stuff like that. But it eats up more file space the bigger the file. So like think when you're shooting 1080p, you're shooting a small little square. You're shooting 4K, shooting your flat screen TV, and then we shoot 8K, it's even bigger than that. So, and now your card has to hold that information. So that's why usually, like the FX6 Sony has a special type of memory card because it only records a certain file size. Like there's a certain amount of file size that it has to take up regardless of what it's shooting. And then when you get into the 4K, it has to be able to write that information to the card at a certain speed. So those cards get pretty expensive. Like one of those cards is like $300 because it has to be able to write speed at a certain. It has to be able to write information at a certain speed. So yeah. Back to some of our settings. I won't go through all of them. It'll be so number 4 is going to be, well, we'll do number 3. That's our aperture. That's how much light you're letting into the lens. A good way to remember, the lower the number, the more light you're letting in. The higher number, the less light you're letting in. Think of it as your pupil. When your pupils are dilated, they want you to wear sunglasses because your eyes are going to let in a lot of light. When they're not, or when you're focused, they close, so you see pretty straightforward. Good way to remember. And number 4 is your ISO. Your ISO is how sensitive your camera is to light. So a good range to keep that in is anywhere from 200 to 800. Once you start getting higher than that, you risk your image starting to have noise, which is just those little pixels you would see in the shot. Yeah, but you can, most newer cameras, you can go up to probably like 1200 ISO before it starts getting fuzzy, depending on where you're at. But a good range that all cameras perform really well in is between that 200 to 800 ISO. And then that's when you want to use lighting to kind of compensate for any lack of light there. Which brings us to resolution. This is actually what we were talking about with making a file size bigger, because that's a common term you're going to hear. You'll hear frame rate, resolution, exposure. Resolution, that's going to be the 1080p, the 4K, the 4K Ultra HD, all that stuff. So that's always going to be resolution. It's going to be how beautiful the shot is. Like, yeah. And you always want to consider your resolution depending on where you're going to put something. Like YouTube, you can put 4K, but you might want to you might want to lower your 4K to 1080p so it's sharper on YouTube, because on web platforms, 4K videos are usually very big files and it's a lot to process for them. But when you take a 4K file and you make it smaller into a 1080p file, it's just significantly sharper. It's like, think of taking your flat screen and putting it into one of the old TVs, taking that really big picture and squishing it down to that small picture. You're taking all this information and you're squeezing it down to here, which is going to make an image sharper. But if you take that little screen and try to make it fit on a big screen and you stretch it, it's going to look absolutely crazy. It's not going to be good quality. So yeah, just consider that stuff when you're using resolution, because 4K you can also scale it up to zoom in editing, and then 1080p you can't really do that. You can somewhat depending on what you're editing, but yeah, that's a good way to do it. And then we talked about frame rate, and we talked a little bit about our exposure triangle. That's our aperture, our shutter speed, our ISO. All those together make our exposure triangle. That's part of what we talked about in part 1. Those 3 things together are going to make the best image. So once you learn, how to balance those together, then you'll be able to make really good images. But shutter speed, just know that's one thing you're never really going to want to change when you're shooting video, at least. Like, you don't want to be shooting at 24 and then be like, it's too bright, I'm going to turn it up to 1 over 125. No, you need to figure out a different way. You need to use your aperture, your ISO to lower that light sensitivity. So yeah, and then of course I mentioned before, typically your frame rate is 2 times, or typically your shutter speed is 2 times your frame rate. So yeah, and then always remember, the best camera is the one you have and the one you know. Technique trumps equipment. So like, if you know how to use a certain camera, you're always going to use it better than a camera you don't know how to use. I put myself in this situation before. It's not fun. I had a brand new camera and I was filming a project that I'm like, if I had my camera, I'd be able to set it up. We're good to go. We're ready to go. But I had to learn all these settings really fast and pray that this video comes out good. Fortunately, it did. But the camera is always going to be better than that brand new shiny camera. You just want to make sure you know the camera first. So, composition and framing. These are some keys that we talked about in our last class too, and we won't go into this in great detail, but essential framing guidelines are your rule of thirds, headroom, and lead room and look space. So the rule of thirds, you divide your frame into 9 equal segments, and you place your key elements along the lines at their intersections, or for more dynamic and interesting compositions. So like, you never want something directly in the middle. There's exceptions to every rule. Sometimes you want them right in the middle, but most of the time you want to have them on one side of the intersections where those lines intersect. I included a little picture. You always just frame your subject with purpose. Headroom, you obviously don't want somebody, like, you don't want their head cut off depending on what you're doing. Like, you want to just leave appropriate space for your subject's head. You don't want like a whole bunch of space. You don't want like a little bit of space either. Yeah, and then this is mainly, you think about this for like interviews and things where you're going to have a camera set up. Sometimes in like moving shots and stuff, it's okay if you cut somebody's head out, but like headroom is always something that you really want to think about, but it's very prominent in interviews. So like the eyes should kind of line along that top third line, and then that will give them just enough headroom. And then lead room and look space. You want to leave space for the direction your subject is facing or moving. And without that lead room, the shot feels cramped. It feels very like uncomfortable to watch, because like if I'm running to the left and there's no space, it's going to feel weird because all the space is behind me. It's going to feel like he's not moving as fast. It's just going to feel weird. But if you have that lead space in front of him, it'll always make things feel a little more like, oh wow, there's space. He's really running. He got somewhere to go. And with that, we'll talk about like some common shot types. This is one shot I miss a lot, but it's wide establishing shots. These kind of show the whole scene. They show where you're at and what's going on. And it always helps to start a scene with a wide shot because we know what's going on. Of course, exceptions to every rule. Some scenes start with a close-up, but yeah, it's it's good to know where you're at, what's going on, and those different kind of things because they help you. Your medium shot is going to show the subject from the waist up, and it balances details along with context. That one's pretty straightforward. Like you just have your subject, but you can still see a little bit what's going on behind them, where they're at. You know what's going on with them. And then close up, it shows face or detail, and it creates an emotional connection. So like you're focused on your subject at this point. It's like whatever you're shooting, you're very close to it. It just creates a connection between the viewer and whatever you're showing the viewer. And back to the other side, we're going to go to frame your subject with purpose. Every framing choice, it communicates a certain meaning to your viewers. So consider what your composition is saying beyond just the spoken content. So consider what you're shooting, where you're shooting, and what you're trying to show your viewer more than just like what they're saying, what they're doing. It's like, how am I showing that? Like if someone's stressed, are you going to be very far away from them? Probably not. You'll be pretty close to them so you can see their facial expression. You can see their sweat. You can see, the frustration on their face. You connect with that part. But also if someone feels alone, you probably want to have a very wide shot with nothing else in the shot because now it shows solitude. And then of course like time of day and things go into play because you don't want to have someone feeling sad and alone in the middle of like a bright, shiny show where everybody's partying. Now, that may be part of the story. Like I said, exceptions to every rule, but usually you want to show somebody alone, like you gotta show that somebody feels alone. And then of course, for professional results, you keep your horizons level. Avoid merging lines with the subject's head. Like you don't want like a pole behind somebody and then like a pole coming right out of their head. It's going to look crazy. Use your negative space intentionally. This is the same as like lead room, look space. Use that negative space intentionally and ensure clean, uncluttered backgrounds. And then create depth with the foreground, middle, and background elements. So think about what's behind your subject, where your subject is, and what's in front of your subject. So those kind of things. How far your subject is away from the camera. A good pro tip, use the grid overlay feature on the camera to help visualize the rule of thirds when you're shooting. I use this all the time. My camera literally, I don't even turn it off. Like this is the easiest way to set up the shot because then you see exactly where those lines are. So when you get in the edit, you don't even have to use them because you shot it that way. But So lighting fundamentals, shaping your visual story. The biggest, easiest setup is always going to be the classic. It's the 3-point lighting setup. You have your key light. This is the light that is the primary light. It's the key to the shot. That's why it's called the key light. This is a source that is going to light your subject. It's typically 45 degrees from the camera, and it creates the main shadows, and it defines all the features on their face and or on the subject. This is always going to be the brightest of your 3 lights. It's going to set up for the other 2. So the next one will be your fill light. This one does exactly what it's named for. It fills the scene. It softens those harsh shadows that the key light makes. It's positioned on the opposite side of the key light, and it usually is half its intensity because it's just there to kind of fill out the scene and like get rid of those really harsh shadows. And it controls like that contrast between your subject and your scene. And then intensity is usually 50% of the key light. Good kind of rule of thumb. Like if your key light's at 100, your fill light is usually going to be half that. Sometimes, depending on where you're shooting, that'll be different. But just know your fill light is usually not going to be as bright as your key. And then one that a lot of people miss is actually the backlight. So sometimes it's called a rim or a hair light. this is going to create separation between your subject and the background. So it's positioned literally behind the subject, and it's pointing at their shoulders or their head, and it adds dimension and depth. It takes them out of the background, and it really separates from it, and then it helps bring that subject out, especially like in interviews or in podcasts and things like that. If you have a backlight in who's talking, they're going to look so much more dimensional than just having key and fill. It's one that a lot of people like miss because it's kind of hard to set it up sometimes, because like, well, if I'm shooting directly at you, I don't want to have a light behind you somehow, but it's a good way to like really bring some life to your video. And it can make your iPhone video look like it was shot on a DSLR or mirrorless camera. It's a night and day difference between shooting. And its intensity, it kind of varies based on what you're doing, but just know, like, you don't want it to be super bright, but you don't want it to be super dark either. But when you check your shot, you will know kind of like, all right, I want to turn it down. I want to turn it up, turn it down, depending on what it is. Because sometimes you can use LED lights for it too. Just kind of depends on what you're doing. But for those that don't have lights, we'll talk about some natural lighting techniques, and that is a window light. So you position the subject facing or at 45 degrees of the window or where light's coming in. So you want them to be in front of the window. You don't want the window to be behind them. Use reflectors. You can use like white foam. You can use a sheet. You use any, like, a good rule of thumb, white bounces light. So anything white, anything that can bounce some light, you can use that. Like, I went to Home Depot and bought a big old piece of styrofoam, put some tape on it so I could hold it, and that's a reflector. So I use a sheet. I've used a sheet before. You can use anything that's white. It'll bounce any kind of light off of it, and you'll notice the difference. Just take it away, bring it back. You'll notice the difference. Time of day, golden hour. I mean, it's a short time, but it is a beautiful time because the light's not very harsh. We covered this in the last class too, but like golden hour, it's 1 hour before 1 hour after sunrise and before sunset. It's always going to be great light. Everybody takes pictures at that time. It's a beautiful time. And then diffusion. So you can use curtains, you can use diffusers, you can use anything to and diffusers are something that you use to block some of the light, take some of the light out. So like here we have some gear that is, you'll put your light in, and I forget the actual name of it. I don't know why it's not coming to mind, but it's a shade that goes around the light and it diffuses some of the light, but it also spreads the light out. So it spreads the light evenly, and it softens some of the light coming in. So it's more even, it's more straightforward. And then, so artificial lighting options, LED panels, these are going to be the versatile. They're dimmable. They're dimmable, and sometimes you can adjust the color too. So like sometimes these have white balance adjustable colors. So like you can turn them up between 5600 all the way down to 32, just to kind of make an artificial sun look. So you can balance that light. And the ring lights, I mean, we know about these. These are great for faces, and these create catch light. And then soft boxes, that's what I was trying to bring up. Soft boxes, they go around lights and they diffuse light for softer shadows. Good budget options, you can use clamp lights with LED bulbs and parchment paper. Be careful, because it can still burn depending on how hot the light is. But yeah. But good keynote is, remember, lighting creates mood, it guides attention, and it enhances production value more than almost any other element except audio. Even simple adjustments can dramatically improve your video quality. So you don't really need a super expensive camera if you have a really good lighting setup. So investment wise, I'm always going to say get lights, get audio, get camera. So yeah. Next thing is stabilization. controlling the viewer's experience. So this is another thing a lot of people forget about is stabilization. I mean, we got our tripod. I mean, we all know what a tripod is. It's the foundation. It's the piece that most people know. I mean, it's essential for just if you want your camera to sit still and stay in one place, it's essential. And you can get smooth pans, smooth tilts, smooth back and forth motion. Like you can, yeah. And then monopod. This one is also one that gets overlooked, but it's a good middle ground between handheld and tripod because like you can move around pretty quickly. You can move around very easily, but you can also, you still get to maintain like that vertical stability without the shaking of things. And this is great for like events. It's great for documentary stuff where you have to kind of move around a lot, but you still want your shots to be very stable. And then the gimbal, I mean, this is like the full-on modernized version. Like these can get very expensive. They could be very inexpensive. It kind of depends on what camera you're using it for. They have some for phones. They have some for cameras. They have some that are full body. Yeah, it's just the modernized ones, and it counters like hand movements. So instead of me pushing and pulling a camera, instead of me moving it side to side, this is going to hold it steady while I move side to side, while I move front to back, while I move up and down. It's going to get rid of that handshake because as humans, our hands naturally shake. If your hands don't shake, I'm worried for you. Your hands don't shake a little bit, I'm a little worried for you because that means you're a robot. Yeah. So it gets rid of that natural human handshake. It's really good for, it's like gimbals are really good for weddings. They're really good for events. They're really good for times where you want motion, but you want very clean motion. And then the shoulder rig. This distributes the camera weight across your body. It sits on your shoulder and it's more stable than just holding the camera, but you still get that natural shake because our body's leaning back and forward, but it evenly distributes the weight. So there's not a dramatic shake when you're doing those things. So now we know about the gear. Let's talk about some camera movements. So every camera move should have an intention and enhance the storytelling. Don't just be out here doing random stuff because it looks cool. That's not the way to do it. But basic camera moves, you got the pan, that's horizontal, left to right. You got the tilt, that's up and down. You got the dolly, that means when camera moves forward to backward. Then you got the truck, camera moves side to side. And then you have your pedestal where it goes up and down. Pro tip, start and end each movement with 3 seconds of static framing to make the edit easier. Don't just jump right into the shot. Start with like, hey, this is what I'm getting, and then get it, because then you can just cut that part off in the edit. And if it's not, like, then you can kind of time it. You give yourself some time. I say 5 seconds, but like the rule of thumb is 3. You know, rule of thirds. We do things in 3s. It's not a bad thing. But when to use these types of movement, static shots, you want to use these in interviews, when you're shooting products, when you're doing presentations, and when the subject movement is in focus. So like ring commercials are a really good example. It's like you see an engagement ring, you see very small products, or not even small products, just products in general. The product moves in the shot, not the camera so much. Sometimes it moves back and forth, sometimes side to side, but most of the movement is done by the product or the subject. In interviews, I mean, you see with podcasts, people are sitting across. People are usually sitting directly across from the camera, and that camera doesn't move. It may zoom in, zoom out, but doesn't move. And then dynamic moves, they're going to be with the gimbal. These are reveal shots. They follow action. They establish environment. They create emotional impact. Yeah, it's kind of straightforward. And then controlled handheld, you want that documentary feel, those intimate moments, and those kind of moments where you just like, yeah, I need to hold the camera. I need to be in the scene. These add that certain level of energy. So don't be afraid to not hold the camera with your hands. Just kind of know when you want to, when you should, when you shouldn't. Shot planning and storyboarding. I won't go into detail for this, but this is going to be, I put this in here just to bring attention to planning, because a lot of what we fail to do as creators is we fail to plan before we shoot. So you want to do your best to put a plan together before you just go out and shoot. It's going to make the shoot better. Whether that's storyboarding, whether that's making a blueprint to it, whether that's making a checklist, like always have a plan going into things so you know what you want to capture and you're not just shooting things willy-nilly. Like remember, a storyboard or a shot list is not just for big Hollywood productions. Even a quick sketch can help you visualize your shots, avoid mistakes, and keep your shoot efficient. So not only respectful of your time, but other people's time, because we're busy people. So we just want to make our shoot most efficient as possible. And to go back to this, shoot to edit. Don't shoot to just shoot. Like shoot for your edit, because when you get to the edit, you're going to be much happier. Another thing I included was on-set etiquette and workflow. Won't go into too much detail, but be respectful, have clear communication, keep your gear safe, like have protocols for protecting this stuff. This stuff is expensive. And I don't want to hear a camera hit the ground when I'm shooting, because I'm gonna be mad. Because that means the lens is broke and the camera's broke. And then respect the schedule. So adhere to people's time, adhere to the schedule, because people's time is important. Your time is important. You don't have time. You don't have all day to be shooting everything. And then have like standard call outs. So like during interviews and stuff, you want to have like we're rolling or quiet on set or cut. So everybody who's helping shoot, everybody that's on the shoot knows exactly what's going on. So yeah, remember, professionalism and respect for your colleagues and their time are just as vital as your technical skills for a production. So you want to be successful, have a level of professionalism and understanding in the entire workflow. Now let's talk about audio quality. Audiences will forgive poor audio, but they will never, audience will forgive poor video, but they will never forgive poor audio. Audio is going to make or break things. So research consistently shows that audio quality has a greater impact on viewer engagement and retention than video quality. Here's why. Cognitive load. Poor audio forces listeners to work harder to understand content, causing fatigue and disengagement. You're making somebody work harder by your video not sounding good. And I'm like, well, dang, I'm already here watching. I don't want to work while I'm watching. Perceived professionalism. Clear audio signals competence and attention to detail. People don't notice it, but people notice it. Emotional connection. Voice conveys nuance, tone, and authenticity that builds trust. And platform flexibility. Quality audio enables content repurposing, so you can do video straight to podcast. Like good audio is going to make it easier to go across all different platforms, because good audio is key to doing anything really great. Just like in person, like if I talked really quietly, and even with my lovely people sitting in the audience, if I talked very quietly, you couldn't hear what I'm saying. You're going to be like, well, I guess I'll just check the slides out at the end because I can't really hear what he's saying. Yeah. Or if I talked extremely loud, you're going to be like, whoa, what? Why are you yelling at me? So yeah, the number one mistake is using a camera's built-in microphone for anything beyond casual content. Always use an external mic. Always use some kind of microphone that's going to capture audio, no matter what you're doing. Even for me, I'm like, even if it's casual, they make really small mics that you can put on your camera, you can put on your phone. It's always going to be better. If you want really good audio, always have a dedicated piece of equipment capturing the audio. It's always going to help you. Can never go wrong. So let's talk about investment priority. If your budget is limited, prioritize audio equipment over your video upgrades. A $200 microphone is definitely going to be better than a $2,000 camera. I don't want to have an FX3 and I'm using its built-in mic. That don't make no sense. I'd rather have a regular old DSLR that I found at the pawn shop and then go to the store and buy a really good mic, because people are going to be like, what did you shoot this on? Because it's going to sound significantly better. I'm always going to choose good audio over a great camera. Like, I'm always going to choose great audio over a great camera, because if it sounds good, the visual comes later. So let's talk about some essential tools. You want a quality microphone for appropriate recording situations. So shotguns, condenser mics, different things. We'll get into the details of what those are. But you want to have a pop filter for vocal recording. You want to always have a pair of headphones and an audio interface. An audio interface is not always important depending on what camera you're using, because you can put audio into the camera. But audio interface like a Zoom H6 or different things like that, they will be helpful in capturing separate audio. And then, basic sound treatment for wherever you're recording. So yeah, you want to just have, rugs and stuff down. But yeah, always monitor audio with headphones while you're recording, because your ears are the best tool for detecting problems in real time. You can hear it, you can fix it. So let's talk about microphone types. Dynamic microphones, they are the best for noisy environments, loud sources, and they're very durable. They pick up cardioid audio. So pretty much a heart shape. They pick up whatever direction they're facing. They pick up kind of in a heart shape of what is in that area. Some good examples are the Shure SM58 or the Audio Technica ATR 2100X. Use them both. They're really good. And pros of it rejects background noise. It's durable, and you don't need phantom power. We won't talk about phantom power today, but phantom power is basically something that it's power you need to even make the mic work. These mics, they don't need that. Way easier. Cons, they're less sensitive, and they require to be close or closer, like close proximity. So they need to be a little closer. Now, condenser microphones, these are the studio ones. These are ones that, you see people singing on. Condenser microphones, they capture detail, they capture nuance. They have different options of like their pickup pattern. So some can be omnidirectional, some can be cardioid. It doesn't really matter. It just kind of matters what you're using that mic for. Examples would be like the Rode NT1, the Blue Yeti, Audio Technica AT2020. The pros, detailed sound, very sensitive. Cons, they definitely capture room noise, and they require phantom power. So if your room's loud, that mic's going to hear it. And we have our lavalier mics. These are the mics that you clip on to people. They're pretty omnidirectional, but they're really good for all around, but mainly interviews and presentations. Like, they're hands free, so you don't want people holding the mic. A lav is always great. They're, like I said, they're omnidirectional for their pickup pattern. A good example is like a Rode Smart Lav. So those little, I know you guys seen social media where people are holding the little Rode mic, and you can clip those to your shirt. That's an example of one. The pros, they're discreet. People can't see them on camera, and they're very close to the mouth. So like you'll pretty much get a good recording as long as it's clipped to their clothes. And then the cons though is if somebody slaps their shirt, if their clothes rustle, if they're wearing a chain, that mic picks that up. So those kind of things. Shotgun microphones, I love these because these are the video production microphone. Like, it isolates its sound at the source. They're very directional, so whatever they're pointing in, that area that they're pointing in, they're going to pick up that sound very well. This mic right here that I'm using is a shotgun mic. So an example, this one, the Rode video mic. I know we've probably all seen those that sit on top of cameras. Sennheiser MKE 600. Sennheiser is a really good example. Pros, they focus on the subject. They reject the side noise. So this mic will not really hear what's going on over here. won't really go on what's going on here. It's going to focus on me. But the cons, it requires you to aim it specifically, and it picks up like the noise of you moving it around. So if you're like messing with it too much, it's going to hear that. Yeah. But some common audio problems come from not having a good recording environment. So you always want to make sure your environment is as good as it can be, because if it's not, then you're going to hear echo, you're going to hear different things. So like echo and reverb, it's going to add, like you can add soft surfaces, like you can throw down blankets, you can throw down rugs, you can go with cushions, acoustic panels, depending on the kind of room you're in. I mean, avoid being in a bad acoustic room in the first place. Good way to avoid that is you can go into the room and clap. And if you hear your clap echo, it's not a good room. Try it in the gymnasium and then go in the library. It's going to be completely different. Background noise. You want to turn off the fans. You want to turn off the AC. You want to turn off the fridge. Those things, they can be heard. And then plosives. I know a lot of people kind of avoid this, but like when you hear people say P's and it sounds like the mic exploded for a second, those are called plosives. And it's just P and B sounds, like puts emphasis on that. That's why I use a pop filter. Proximity. You want to make sure someone's not too close, too far from the mic. And then wind noise. Always use a windscreen, because if you're outside and it's windy, you don't got a windscreen on your mic, it's going to be sounding crazy. But a good budget hat is like record in closets with hanging clothes for natural sound dampening. That's why, it's like a lot of like people who started out recording music, they recorded in their closet because it dampens the sound. Even when you're singing in the shower, the steam and being in that room dampens the sound, so you sound better. At least I sound better. I don't know about y'all. But so podcast workflow, we'll come back to this, but yeah, we're gonna talk about podcasts first. So choosing the right format for your podcast is going to be the key. So if you have a solo podcast, these are ideal for sharing personal insights, expertise, or updates directly with your audience. They focused on you, you're focused on them. Pretty straightforward. And it gives you maximum control over the content. So you have very little like effects going on with what's going, like you have very little outside factors. Interview podcasts, these focus on your guest and you and whatever subject you're talking about. And it brings diverse perspectives and other knowledge from others. Excellent for networking, excellent for expanding, and cross promotion. So providing fresh, engaging content. So panel discussion. This is a dynamic format. Multiple speakers are speaking, debating, or exploring a topic. This is great for like complex issues that have like various angles, insights, things like that. It's lively discussion. So for those bigger topics, panels might be the best. And then narrative documentary. These are the true crime podcasts. These are the ones where like you're telling a story. Doesn't really matter what format you choose for it. It's just like you're telling a story about something. It may be multiple people telling the story about something. But yeah, when you're talking about podcasts, yeah, it's you're telling a story about a specific subject. But the format you choose, it sets the tone for the entire podcast. So pick one that plays to what you are best at and the time that you have and the resources you have, because that's going to impact over everything. So what are you going to do that's going to have the most impact? Focus on that. We'll go back up to a good workflow from concept to publication. You want to plan your podcast, define what's going on in your podcast, research, and schedule everything that you need to schedule. Recording, you want to test the levels before you record. Aim for -12 to -6. This is always going to be a good recording range. Record 10 seconds of room tone for editing. So before you start, you want the cameras to roll for at least 10 seconds. So you have the sound from the room that you can remove later. And then If possible, use separate tracks for each speaker. Now, when you're editing, remove your mistakes, the long pauses, the filler words. Clean it up. Add an intro and outro with music and transitions. This is always going to bring people in. It's going to give people that end feeling too. So intro will bring people in and outro will take people out. And for audio editing, apply compression, EQ, and normalization. Those 3 things to audio editing are going to make your podcast sound so much better. And then publish. You want the sound exported as MP3. If you're doing video, MP4 with the audio edited on there. And then create your compelling episode artwork and write a description for your video. Use hashtags too. And then distribute to all podcast platforms via hosting service. So that means post it to YouTube. That means post it to your other podcasting platforms. I won't go into detail about how to do it all at once, but you want a hosting service that is going to send it to Apple. It's going to send it to Spotify. It's going to send it to, Google Play, Amazon, all those different things. Now, scripting and outlining, this also goes with planning. So you want to have a script versus an outline. So whether you're meticulously planning a script or you just prefer to just be more spontaneous, it's fine. But just have some kind of plan in place. So a script versus outline, you describe your level of detail. A full script is going to be this is what we're talking about. This is how long we're talking about. Or a bullet outline is just here's what we're going to talk about, but I want to flow through it. So yeah, pick what works best for you and it's okay. Have an opening hook. Always start the same way. It's hey, I'm Javon Manning. Welcome to the video production part 2 class. And, I'm happy you guys joined me. Here's what we're going to talk about today. Kind of start off similar. Of course, this doesn't have to be perfect, but, start off things in a similar way to have that level of continuity. State your topic, talk about what you're going to talk about, ask a question, those different things, whatever works best for you. Have a logical structure too. Organize your main points first. So these are things we're definitely going to cover, and then have your supplementary stuff. That's while we cover these, we'll move into this. If we have time, we can move into these things too. But have your main stuff ready to go. Smooth transitions. Plan how you're going to move between segments. Don't just be hey, we're going to talk about video production, and actually now we're just going to go into filming a movie. It's how do we get there? I'm going to be confused just watching that. And then, at the end, have a clear call to action, hey, share, subscribe, find me here, do these different things, whatever those things are. But even if you're doing a free flow conversation, having a loose outline is going to help you stay on topic. It's going to help you not ramble. It's going to make your edit easier. So like I was saying earlier, shoot to edit. Don't just shoot to shoot. So yeah, this is all just goes into planning. You want to plan your stuff before you just jump into something. And then branding. I'm not a branding and marketing specialist, but you don't want to just have great content. You want to have great way of sharing that content, branding that content, marketing that content. It's crucial for your podcast to grow. It's crucial for anything to grow. I don't care if your movie is beautifully shot. If it never made it to the theaters, I don't care because I'll never see it. So yeah, branding and marketing is just as important as actually putting the project together. So key elements, you're going to have a distinct identity. So memorable show name, artwork, those different things. Audio signature, consistency between your audio is always going to be good. If you always have good audio, always have good music, people are going to recognize that. Your audience is going to recognize that. A broad distribution strategy. So ensure your podcast is available on all the major platforms, i.e. the Apple Podcasts, the Spotifys, the Googles, the YouTube. You want to maximize your reach. so you can have data on where you're doing the best. Because when you maximize your reach, people can find you anywhere, no matter what device they have, no matter where they're watching from. So yeah, you want people to be able to find you. And then engaging promotion. So you want to transform your key moments into social media snippets or audiograms. These short shareable clips are excellent for attracting new listeners on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and even X. Don't sleep on X. There's a lot of people on there. Don't sleep on the blue skies. But like, you don't want to just be taking a bunch of clips and sharing them. Like, share key moments that people your audience are going to connect to, and even potential new listeners are going to connect to. A good 3 to 5 clips is going to be way better than having 10 to 15 just whatever from your podcast. Like, key moments are always going to be better than everything. I always say quality over quantity. And then strategic collaborations. Don't just be out here collaborating with everybody. Be strategic. Seek out like people you want to work with that align with you, and opportunities that align with you. Like, seek out those people you want to work with, those money opportunities, those different things that are going to help you build what you're building. Don't just collaborate because this person's bigger than I am and now I want to talk to them. It's like, no, do they align with what you're trying to do? A lot of people kind of overlook that of like, hey, this person's doing better, they're making more money. Sometimes they're not making more money than you. It just looks like that. But you want people that are in your space. So yeah, good branding. It's going to make you recognizable. It's going to make you memorable. And marketing is going to ensure that people actually find it, listen to it, watch it. Don't skip it. That's all. So last thing, these are our key takeaways. So what did we do today? We focused on our 3 pillars. We prioritized our audio. We stabilized our shots. We mastered our lighting. So going back through this, these are going to give you an understanding of all of these different things that are going to help you make a better podcast, make better videos, produce better projects. I gave you all a production action plan. I'll make sure you guys all have access to these slides via DCM's website. Also, make sure you take advantage of the classes here at DCM. Make sure you take advantage of the equipment here at DCM. We have some really good gear here. So if you are a member, please come through, use that gear, use me as a resource. I'm here all the time. I'm a volunteer. So make sure to take advantage of Drew, Austin, Megan, Corinne. They're all here to help you. This is a great place to start. But action plan this week: audit your current equipment and identify your most critical upgrade needs. Prioritize them on what you want to do. Number 2, experiment with the 3-point lighting that we talked about, using whatever light sources you already have now. So that means your friend's house, whatever lights you got at home, your ring lights, your little lights. You experiment using 3-point lighting and see how it looks. Try with no lighting, and then try with that lighting and look at the difference. You'd be surprised. Even if you have cheap lights, it's okay. I started with cheap lights too. It's all good. Number 3, record a test video applying those 3 techniques from today. So, like I said, try it. Look at the difference. Like, actually look at it from film to edit, and see how long it takes you up. See how long it takes you to set it up, break it down, those different things. And then share your results. We have a community here. Share them with me. Send them to my Instagram. My Instagram is at Glass Valley PRD. Send them to me. Share them with me. I'll give you feedback. Share them with the DCM community. We'll give you feedback. Come on in. You know where I'm at. Share them with me. And then additional resources I gave you guys, what I will be giving is an equipment guide. So I'm going to give everyone a budget-friendly shopping list so you can start looking at some stuff. And these will have clickable links, so you can just click and it'll take you right to what you're trying to find. And I labeled them all with prices and everything as well, so you can know how much you're going to spend along those lines. Because, you know, with inflation and tariffs and things like that, that little 200 might not be 200 no more, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. And then I gave technical checklists, so pre-production checklists for filming day and filming day checklist. So that'll be available too. And then, of course, we have our video tutorial library right here on our YouTube. So our full collection of our how-tos, our full collection of my classes, everything that you need to know is right here at DCM. So check us out. And remember, professional production isn't just about having expensive gear. It's about mastering fundamentals and applying them consistently.
Love that.
But that is the end of the class. And if you have any questions for me, please reach out to me. Again, my Instagram is at Glass Valley PRD. Also, I'm here all the time. Drew's here, Megan's here, Austin's here, and DCM is here to help you. So any questions, feel free to reach out. And before we leave, do we have any questions online? Do we have any questions from my audience?
We do not.
All right. Well, I will see y'all next month on the third Thursday of September. It's August. So yeah, we'll see you in September. We good, Drew? Cool. I love this thing.
Super dope.
And I will make sure that you guys have these slides so you're not just like, you don't have to like look. So those are kind of like areas. I would recommend reaching out to people to see what their audio situation is. Because sometimes it's like, you're just gonna have to do what you got. I feel like it's like they didn't have a good camera, they don't have a webcam. It just kind of depends. So like, if you can reach out to them before and see like, hey, can you rent this kind of mic and we before we record, so I can set you up with your audio setup and have the lighting setup as well. Those different things. But if you can't, in post, you can usually just level the audio up a little bit, and then it'll be the best it could